Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this July 19th finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. Temperature and rainfall outlooks this morning, still a case of no heat in the forecast for the entire 2 week time frame across the Corn Belt, especially western areas seeing some below normal temperatures at times. No changes to note in my 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day rainfall forecast this morning, although I will note that I do have some concerns that I may be going too dry in the 6 to 10 day period, and I'll discuss that a little bit more later on in this video. QPF discussion for this morning, and no major disagreements with this forecast. Going to be a clear bias on rainfall with our near-term system in the Corn Belt, with southwestern areas suffering from a general lack of rainfall, especially as compared to the type of rain that is going to be seen further east and northeast from that area. Note that a lot of the rain that is shown in this map in the far eastern Corn Belt is not going to be getting started until late tomorrow or tomorrow night and into the weekend, so there is still some chance for that rainfall forecast to change to some degree. The rainfall that is shown in the southeast, pretty substantial in nature. Some of that going to be falling on every day in the 5 day forecast period. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, good model agreement on this period. Should be very limited rainfall in the Corn Belt. Anything that does fall confined to far western and far eastern areas. Temperatures yesterday, another fairly mild day, especially as compared to what we have seen so far this month across a lot of the Corn Belt. Again, note the big heat, though, in southern portion of Oklahoma and into Texas, localized areas there, getting to as warm as 108 to 109 degrees, and there will be a lot more of that to come in that area through at least early next week. Rainfall through 1 o'clock this morning, localized areas seeing some nice amounts, but generally speaking, pretty scattered in nature for the areas that have seen rainfall since yesterday morning. You can see that on radar estimated rainfall as well. Localized areas seeing some very nice amounts, but at the same time, you didn't have to go very far from those areas that saw nice amounts to find areas that saw little or nothing since yesterday morning. Early morning radar on this Thursday still shows the scattered nature of the rainfall across the middle of the country. Decent area, though, of rainfall stretching from southeastern portion of North Dakota into southeastern portions of Iowa early on this Thursday. As far as the forecast is concerned, the rain that is shown on the radar right now, all indicative of an upper level low pressure system that is starting to move into northwestern portions of the Corn Belt at this time. By 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, that low pressure system started to work its way into eastern portions of the Corn Belt, which should mean that the western Corn Belt will see all of their significant rainfall ending by early tomorrow. But rainfall is going to be continuing in the eastern Corn Belt through late in the weekend. You can see that for late in the day on Saturday that the upper level low pressure system still firmly entrenched in the eastern portion of the Corn Belt, which should keep rainfall chances in the far eastern Corn Belt all the way through Sunday. So when you're looking at rainfall totals from now through 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday, you can see that there is a distinct bias towards the better rains to be found in northeastern portions of the Corn Belt versus southwestern areas. The best rainfall amounts in the near term probably going to be over southeastern portion of North Dakota into northeastern South Dakota, western and southern Minnesota, into southeastern portion of Michigan, eastern Indiana, and into Ohio, where those areas will see a lot of 1+ inch rainfall amounts and localized totals of 2+ inches. Compare that to southwestern areas where rainfall will be just on the order of 1/4 to 1/2 inch, with coverage limited enough where some areas in the southwestern Corn Belt from now through late in the day on Sunday will see nothing at all. Looking at temperatures in the near term, your temperature anomalies for this Thursday, you can see that while there is still going to be some very big heat in the southern plains and into Texas, again, a lot of that area seeing 105+ degree highs for this Thursday, with more to follow into at least early next week. That same period clearly not hot to the north and to the northeast of there. Most of the Corn Belt running near to below normal on temperatures for today, and that will continue to be the case right through the weekend period. Looking at an especially cool period for around July 23rd through July 28th, and especially the western Corn Belt and areas to the west and north of there. A snapshot of temperatures on one day during that period would be for next Friday. Look at how cool temperatures would be at that time in the central and western Corn Belt, even an area of much below normal temperatures at that time in the central plain states. You often hear me talk about that a northwesterly flow aloft can be wetter than what the models would initially suggest. And what I'm showing here is a good example of this. This is looking at surface features as of 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a week from tomorrow, for Friday, July 27th. You can see that the European operational model, GFS operational model, even to some extent the Canadian operational models, are now suggesting a fairly significant rainfall event in the Corn Belt at that time in a northwesterly flow aloft. And this is a rainfall setup that really the models had no clue about even yesterday, or even especially as this period was in the 11 to 15 day time frame from several days ago. So this is a clear example of how in a northwesterly flow aloft the models can oftentimes underestimate the type of rains that can be seen during that type of a flow pattern. Now you realize this morning that this map here is a part of the 6 to 10 day time frame, and of course I am still showing a large area of below normal rainfall in the 6 to 10 day period in the Corn Belt. But it is these maps here that do make me wonder if I'm going too dry. Overall, I'd like to see more consistency on this rainfall threat from these various models before I truly buy into it and go for a wetter forecast for the 6 to 10 day time frame. But again, it is a situation this morning that if my 6 to 10 day rainfall forecast is wrong, it is too dry, and it is mainly due to the fact that we could be seeing a relatively significant rainfall event in especially southern portions of the Corn Belt, especially areas to the south of Interstate 80 for around the Friday-Saturday time frame of next week. Longer term, the weather pattern is still indicative of one that is going to be featuring a northwesterly flow aloft right through the entire 2-week time frame. Looking at 500 millibars for very late in the 6 to 10 day time frame, you can see that northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt. Still any dome of high pressure taking up its normal summertime residence over the Four Corners region. A little bit of relaxing of the overall features as we get towards the end of the 11 to 15 day time frame, but still a situation where we're looking at a northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt, something that would keep extreme heat clearly out of the forecast picture in the Corn Belt, and would keep rainfall chances to some degree in the forecast at that time as well for the Corn Belt. As far as international weather is concerned, I want to note that once again we have seen nice rains in Poland over the last 24 hours, giving that area a very nice rainfall event over the last 48-hour time frame. As far as the forecast is concerned, note that southeastern corn areas of Europe, an area that has had wonderful rains throughout this summertime period, will continue to see wonderful rains in the 2-week time frame. Note though that the rest of Europe, a lot of Poland going to be drying out now, especially dry in Germany, northern France, and into England. That's an area that is looking at no better than normal rainfall during the next 2 weeks. A lot of that area looking at below normal amounts, especially dry period there starting tomorrow, continuing through the end of the 10-day time frame. Above normal temperatures going to be dominating in that area as well, especially for the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day time frames. Could start to see some 90+ degree heat in portions of Europe for latter portions of the 6 to 10 day time frame, and probably into the 11 to 15 day period as well. For the summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union, normal to mostly above normal rainfall during the next 2 weeks. A lot of that rainfall occurring during the 1 to 5 day time frame. Your best rainfall totals in northern Ukraine and areas to the north and northeast of there, where 2-week rainfall totals of 1.5 inches to 3 inches will be likely. Fairly normal temperatures there for the 1 to 5 day time frame, then a return to above normal temperatures for the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day periods. Not an especially wet forecast for the spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union. Any decent rains there just in far western and far eastern portions of the main growing area. Forecast continues to trend a little bit wetter for the corn and soybean areas of China, continuing a trend from yesterday's forecast. Note that normal to above normal rainfall going to be seen in Heilongjiang for the next 2 weeks. Mostly below normal rainfall for southern portions of Manchuria and the North China Plain for the 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 day period, but in between is a wet period of weather for the 6 to 10 day period, and that is all due to the projected path and the remnants of what is Tropical Storm 12W. You can see that projected path through late in the day on Monday or into early Tuesday. Once we are beyond this period, that storm system is projected to take a path more northerly and northeasterly. In a situation like this, most of your good rains are to the east of the storm track, so that would be a storm track especially favorable for producing a lot of rainfall for about Sunday, Monday, and into for the North China Plain, and then beyond that for a good portion of southern Manchuria. So like yesterday's forecast, I am believing the European operational and the European on-site ensemble with the projected path of Tropical Storm 12W and believe that the remnants of that storm could be bringing some very nice rainfall in the 6 to 10 day period for a lot of the North China Plain and into southern portion of Manchuria. Very important that that verifies, because again, both of those areas looking at dry conditions for the 1 to 5 and 11 to 15 day period with extensive above normal temperatures across the area in question for the entire 2-week time frame as well. For the Canadian prairies, a very limited rainfall in the forecast for the next 10 days or longer than that for southern portion of Alberta and into southern Saskatchewan. North of there, though, some very nice rain is going to be falling for the next 10 days. Much cooler weather going to be arriving on the Canadian prairies as we get towards Sunday and into the middle of next week. Still a dry forecast for Australian wheat areas. Any decent rainfall during the next 2 weeks confined to portions of the wheat areas of Western Australia and into Victoria. Especially dry during the next 2 weeks will be the wheat areas of New South Wales. Finishing up for this morning in India, still no changes in the monsoon there. Limited rainfall for the next 2 weeks for southern portion of the Indian subcontinent. Much better rains to the north of there in some of those key soybean, groundnut, and oilseed areas of Rajasthan, southern Gujarat, and into Madhya Pradesh. That's what I have for your Thursday. Everyone have themselves a great day.